Welcome back to Marathon Mortgage Happy Hour. I'm Mike Witzak.
My name is Rory Farrell.
And today, who's in the middle?
Special guest.
CJ Horning.
CJ Horning. And who's CJ Horning with?
Nations Direct Mortgage.
Hey!
And you may be thinking we have a competitor on, but he's a partner.
Yes. Yeah. So CJ works for a bank that we work with. And we figured, why not have somebody else on that's not a realtor and discuss a little bit of different topics, like, you know, what CJ does, how he sees the market, yada, yada, yada. So, right?
Yeah, but before we got to do beer.
Well, yeah, no, I know. I'm not kidding. I'm just...
CJ was kind enough to bring Dock Street. Do you know about this beer? You want to talk about it? You can at least talk about the brewery.
I know Dock Street. I do not know this beer very well.
Yeah, he knows he drinks there. That's about it. Like any normal person.
Well, I'll go ahead and pop it open. Doppelbock is a German style. It is loosely translated to double Bock beer. This one, it's a double because it's 7.5%.
What
There you go.
dude? This isn't...
You guys talk about Pokemon. I talk about beer like a real grown-ass man.
I guess.
So this is for all you Yingling lovers out there. This is a amber lager, which is similar. However, this is, I think Yingling's like 4.3%. This is 7.5. So it's gonna drink similar to that, but probably a little heftier, maybe a little darker even. So cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you, Dock Street.
Thank you, CJ, for bringing it. Good.
Yeah, I like
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been good, like, what is it, 60 degrees out today? Would have been good like 2 weeks ago when it was like a little chillier. Not that this isn't good,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden we have nice warm weather.
Rory's like, yeah, CJ, this would have been great 2 weeks ago, idiot. Come on.
Well, someone wasn't around 2 weeks ago. We
I
were trying
wasn't.
to schedule it 2 weeks ago, but someone was in Vietnam.
Yeah, you gonna hold that over my head for a while here, pal?
I mean, I feel like I got a couple cards to play.
You do. I'll give it to you. You really do. You held down the fort while I was gone. But anyway, enough about us. Our bickering. Who was on the podcast? They were like, "Are you going to stop bickering?" Who was that? That was Mr. Doylestown. He's like, "You guys bicker a lot." Like in the middle of the podcast because we were arguing about something. How somebody's name was
Something
pronounced.
stupid.
Yeah, Noah Khan. Noah
Noah
Khan's
Kahan,
name.
yeah.
Noah Kahan. Whatever. Anyway,
Man, good
let's not
memory.
get into it. CJ, how are you?
Old married couple.
Yeah,
We spent
exactly.
too much time together.
We really do.
Speaking of old, CJ brought us pies today. Happy Pie Day.
Yeah, what's up with that? Tell the world about that.
Freshly baked.
Yes.
Freshly baked.
In honor
It could have
of
been
Pie Day.
freshly baked at Acme today.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. No, I think Acme has a pretty reputable bakery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're known for their pies.
The pies are for Pie Day, March 14th,
Thank you.
for those that observe
Those that celebrate.
and respect mathematics.
Observe is such a funny word to use for that. For those
Pi
that
Day.
observe Pi Day. That's so good.
But we don't want to alienate anyone who doesn't observe. So let's
No,
move
of
past
course.
Pie Day. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, I mean, you've had a storied background. You've been in the business for a while and kind of have made your way to a place that you like now. And tell us a little bit about how you started in the industry, and we'll go from there.
From the beginning?
From the beginning. Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college?
Yeah.
What'd you major in?
So I was born on the 14th.
You want to hear SAT scores?
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Have you
Actually,
you ever listened to Are You Garbage, the podcast?
no, I haven't.
It's a great Philly comedy podcast, but it basically just talks about all the things that would make you garbage, and it's a lot of people from around here and
Okay.
our age range, me and your age range, not so much Mike. So it's very relatable. But one of the things that they asked is, what were your SAT scores? And they're like in the 800s and the 900s, and they're always impressed with someone who's like 1,000. They're like, you 4 digits? What?
that's good. That's good. I like that.
So sorry, you don't have to tell us your scores.
I worked with a character a couple companies ago who had his SAT score on his resume.
No, he didn't. Did he?
He wasn't like.
How old was
he?
this person?
19.
He was probably 27 at the time.
Oh my god.
That's so great.
Oh wow.
Talk
Okay.
about a light resume.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
It was a decent score, but it's just
It wasn't even a 1600.
It was 10 years too late.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. If it's not perfect, even if it was perfect, I really don't care.
I'm gonna update my LinkedIn.
Yeah, dude. Jesus.
Oh, that's too funny.
That's what the mortgage industry needs.
Yeah, good SAT scores.
Yep.
It's the only way to get into this. So
Yeah.
no, we won't go to that. But I joined the mortgage industry right out of college, which I think is somewhat rare. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people in it that start elsewhere.
Me.
And then they fall into it, or someone tells them it's a good industry and you move into it, you know, and you had a whole career before it.
How did that? I mean, not to cut you off immediately, but
Yeah.
why did you have someone who you knew?
I had family.
Yeah, family. Okay, I was gonna say there's got to be some
Which
sort
I
of
think
connection.
is probably responsible for half of the industry.
Yep.
If I had to guess, or that's what it feels like a lot of days.
My dad was used to work here, so that's how I got in.
There you go. So yeah, so it's a parent or it's a cousin or whoever. For for me, I had a cousin and uncle in mortgage and real estate. You know, I was in college, like most 21-year-old boys with no maturity or any idea what I wanted to do, and yeah, we were at just a family event, and a cousin was talking about the mortgage industry. He was telling me how great it, I treated him, and he convinced me to come sit down and talk to a couple people, and decided to do it right out of college. So it's not like a field that recruits people. You're not at a career fair seeing a mortgage company. I mean, maybe you are if you're in Michigan and
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
and Rocket and UWM want to fight for you. But it's not that traditional of a step compared to, it's not like I want to be a nurse or a teacher,
Yeah.
pre-med or finance.
Yeah.
It doesn't really fall in any of those buckets. So, yeah, family brought me into it. I started with secondary marketing, which was, I like to say it taught me a lot, but was pretty boring, once you get into it. So, that's the lock desk of I've got my new loan and I'm going to lock you in at 6.5%. This is what the rebate's going to be, and, sort out all the details. But it turned into, hey, I put the wrong zip code on my new file. Can you fix it? Or
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's like really any job when you're 21, 22.
Right.
Like they're not going to give you the responsibility of, anything more than clerical stuff for the most
Yep.
part as you learn.
as they shouldn't.
They were right for that.
But the interesting side of the job, which I got exposed to and I got to see, that kind of that got automated and outsourced to a larger extent. So the side of it of, hey, we just closed 100 loans. What are we going to do with them next? How are we going to negotiate the sale of the loans? Who's it going to go to? That type of thing got, the service you kind of left in-house, for us. Companies from Wall Street started doing that on a larger scale, and you would just simply pay them to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that side of things, like I said, was very interesting. I mean, that was true Wall Street, like, work, selling these loans and negotiating prices and, hedging the loans and things like that. That aspect of it kind of disappeared even in my short 2 years in the department.
Mhm.
And I, also quickly realized I wanted to move to sales. So about a year to a year and a half in, I got a good grasp on things. I started to realize what I liked or didn't like about it. And that's when I got the opportunity to start shadowing different departments to see what I wanted to move to.
Oh.
Was this at Loan Depot?
No, this was at TriNet Mortgage, which was a
Okay. Yeah.
large company in the area for a long time, and they're now Prosperity Mortgage.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I was saying Trident still was around somewhat recently, right?
So Trident sold in 21 or 22.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, it's
Right.
been around since
Yeah.
I've been in the business for sure.
End of COVID, they rolled up to Prosperity, who are a bigger company, sort of like the real estate side of things had rolled up to the bigger, home services
Yeah.
Berkshire name as well.
Right.
So-
Yep.
They still exist in a certain capacity.
Cool.
We got a lot of colleagues that are still there, and they work the same way they did before in the past. So,
So at Trident, it at least interested you enough to stick with it, because there's not a lot of people who, especially our age, who jump into something right out of college and then have stuck with it, especially the mortgage industry. Usually you
Right.
bounce around a lot,
yeah, and
industry-wise.
it interested me enough. Not that I was sold on the next 40 years of my life, but I liked it. I thought there was enough to it, and it did kind of feel like it's like uncovering a different world than you're used to. Everyone's talking about like more glamorous, careers, or roommate went to work on Wall Street and things like that. It's just so different than that side of things. But I liked it and stuck with it, and I think the youth of it helped me stick with it too. I was like the youngest guy for so long because so many people aren't 22 and applying to mortgage companies.
Yeah.
So
That's what I said with you, man. It's like just getting in right out of college. Like you're gonna have so much more experience. Like you're gonna have, I don't know, 10 plus more year experience at my age than I did.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's just getting to that point. Not,
Don't waste it.
yeah, not dying before then. Which seems to be a hard task to do in this market. But anyway, what year was this though? What year were you entering?
2013, I finished college.
Okay.
Mortgage industry was incredibly slow that summer. So I started, and we were in this room smaller than this with 3 other guys that had all been in the department for like 10 years. And, 2 other guys at the time. They had been together for 10 years. They were like an old married couple. I mean, we talked about you guys being like that. It's like 10 times worse because they were, 2 mid-40s men that had sat in the same room for 10 plus years without much other interaction, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the
you
middle
must have been a
of,
breath of fresh air.
I'm in the middle of like their bickering, their inside jokes,
You're trying to pick up on things. You're like, what is happening?
I'm trying to learn, this brand new industry, and like they're sick of it. So it was it was quite the dynamic in that.
Yeah.
Very-
Sounds
the very
interesting.
small secondary marketing room. So
So when you made the jump to sales, then did you become a loan officer? What did you jump into then?
So I became, junior loan officer, sales assistant, whatever you want to call it. I was starting to study for the NMLS. I wasn't necessarily, I wasn't quoting rates. Obviously, that would have been illegal. But I was talking to I sat in the realty office. So, trying to set up with their 50 or 60 local offices. There's loan officers in almost every one of them. And I, got a desk set up in 2 of these offices for the loan officers I was supporting. And I'd have a set schedule of, sitting there, and a realtor could come up and ask me a quick question that I would go do for them. I could be, one day I'd be making new marketing. On Fridays, I'd be making open house flyers for everybody and leaving them in their mailboxes.
Such
And
a
then
different time,
Yeah.
right? Like sitting in an office and actually having people talk to you.
Yeah, and people would actually show up on a daily basis. They slowly stopped doing that, but that was in, 14 and 15.
Jeez.
And I would, then I started to get a little bit more borrower exposure. So this was, kind of like pre-processing in a way. The borrower had already gotten pre-qualified. They handed in a bunch of documents right after going under contract. And I was trained up to, look through those documents, look for potential issues, make sure that they didn't give us bad information about pay or whatever it might be, and try and, clean up files before they go into underwriting. So I was kind of judged off of how few conditions can a new loan come out with.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, even like 2-3 years ago, we like never used to collect documents up front. It was just like the pre-qualification. You'd get them after they were under contract. And now I look back on that, I'm like, why did we think that was a good idea? You know what I mean?
I still get deals on my desk that are under contract before even getting pre-qualified, and some of them are denied without even thinking twice, because it was that obvious of a red flag for somebody. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you must see the whole gamut of people, right? Because, I just can't imagine. Now I would never do that. It's just crazy.
Right. And we, tried, being in-house for, a real estate company, and that's what 99% of our business was. I mean, we were, that was what they put so much stress on that of, if we're pre-qualifying a client, it's going to close. If we're giving these agents our word, who are our colleagues, the deals were going to have to close.
Yeah.
So,
that should be
Without a
100%.
question.
Yeah, that's how the industry should work.
Right. It should be what everyone cares about.
Yeah.
But it was, very, it was meticulous. You were always running DU, even if they were putting down 30% with a 10 DTI. We were pulling credit, no matter what. We weren't messing with soft pulls or anything, which now has become such a big game for other reasons.
Yeah.
And you really, if someone went under contract, we were going to close them as long as the inspections didn't cause a fallout or something like
And
that.
lose their job or buy a car or something.
Exactly. So, that instilled just like so much, the thoroughness to make sure deals were going to work, which still plays a huge bearing, especially now. If, for you, you're telling a realtor a loan's going to close, and it closes, and if it doesn't, it's on you. If I tell you as a loan officer, this deal's going to close, my bank's going to close your loan, it better close.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I'll
Down the line.
think back on those years of, pre-underwriting or pre-processing these loans, I mean, that's kind of like what still goes through my head on a daily basis, because I know every broker out there can tell stories about AEs promising them things that don't come true. And of course that comes back on us a little bit, but at the end of the day, you are the ones that have a upset borrower or realtor.
Yeah.
You get the real repercussions. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got to take that very seriously.
Yeah, as you should, as we all should.
Yeah, as we all should. And then you went from being a loan officer to then working on the back end of the banking side then?
So I got licensed, kind of slowly throughout this process as I was starting to do this job. I wasn't necessarily out there then soliciting my own business, but it just opened up the conversations I could have. Now I really could quote a rate if I wanted to, which was the side of things I knew best going into it from being in
secondary.
lot less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I could actually talk about that. I could take applications on the phone. It just made me able to do a lot more for, my bosses, for these senior loan officers. And, really from a company like that, the natural progression would be to then, find an open office to then become the real loan officer as opposed to being the supporting loan officer. But those were really, valuable seats. So they don't open up very often.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get into a high producing office, you need someone to quit or, something else to happen. They weren't necessarily opening new offices. So it was a matter of working with what was out there. And in the near term, it didn't really look like any major, opportunities were coming ahead. And without necessarily putting myself out there very far, my boss of now, who I've been with for a long time now, he reached out and wanted to talk about wholesale.
Okay.
So, we were a full correspondent. We underwrote our own files, we closed them ourselves, and at the end we shipped them off to the big end investors like Wells Fargo and Chase Bank. We didn't broker business. We didn't deal with brokers. I didn't know anything about brokers. If I came up against one, if I get a loan estimate from a broker, I barely knew what I was looking at first. When I see $10,000 in origination charges on a big loan amount, but then I see a lender credit $10,000. I mean, I didn't even understand how the comp worked because we were on such a different, rigid comp schedule. So it was totally new to me, and wholesale had really been, beaten down for a while there. 2008 was the worst of it. And for the next few years, more and more mortgage brokers just left the market. And, they made up a very small market share. When I did have to compete on loans, I rarely even ran into them at the time. And now they're significantly larger and more prominent than they used to be.
Yeah.
So that was 2017. My boss wanted to build a internal sales team on the wholesale side for loanDepot Wholesale. They had never had internal AEs, or they hadn't had them in a long time. They were probably 3 or 4 years into business and were starting to do a lot of wholesale, so they knew they had a good thing going on. And then we were kind of be their experiment of, we haven't brought new salespeople into the wholesale side in years now because, so many people exiting. It was just veteran salespeople that had been around. No one wanted to jump into this side of things for a while as the brokers were, leaving in huge numbers, and there wasn't as much business out there anymore.
Yeah.
So,
and how do you see it change from then until now with everything that you saw from, so you got started with loanDepot in 2017, you started on the back end of working with brokerages. Did you see it hey, brokerages built up, COVID happened, huge boom, and then people just start dropping like flies, or kind of what different perspective from your end?
So I think 17 it was definitely already on the upswing from the worst of it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I joined, it was me and one other young guy. Great SAT score, by the way.
Oh, okay. Nice.
He could solve a Rubik's Cube. That's why we hired
Was that also on his resume?
I watched a YouTube video. I could solve the Rubik's
I
Cube
used
too.
he used to be able to do one. We came in, I was 26, 27. He was about the same, maybe a year younger than me. And our next, the East Coast sales team that I was a part of, it probably had 20 AEs that day, and the youngest one was 40. and most of them were
40 so old.
were late 40s, early 50s, and had 20 years of experience as account executives.
Yeah.
So they were already feeling much better about things than they had 3 or 4 years prior. It kind of feels like, 17 probably feels like this year might feel for people, where it was a couple rough years that were in free fall and a lot of moving parts. I feel like a lot of AEs were like starting to resettle in at their banks, and were building up business again.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what I was doing on a daily basis. I was trying to learn what brokers even did or cared about on a daily basis. Looking back, like I have no idea what I was saying to these people on the phone.
You just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, which is a very true saying. And it was like I don't know, I didn't know mortgage brokers. My background was the opposite. I mean, they almost looked at the broker as the enemy from from the correspondent side. I call people up, and some were pleasant. The internal hadn't taken over the industry like now, when you guys get 1,000 calls a day. So people were willing to pick up and talk. Some were even willing to teach me, even if they weren't going to give me a loan. And it's some of the conversations would be embarrassing looking back on them, but all I try to say to these people is like, I'm starting a wholesale business. I've got mortgage experience. I'll work really hard for you. Give me a shot on a loan. I've got a really good company behind me. So, you say like fake it till you make it. That is it to a certain extent. Now, I did have the benefit of seeing coworkers close a lot of business. So I knew people liked us and that we were a good wholesale lender. But I had never truly seen it myself until I got brokers to, convinced to use me, and then told me they liked me or liked my company.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we do this all the time when we're trying to win business from realtors. Like, just give me one. Give me a shitty one.
Yeah.
Give me one that's hard, that no one else wants to touch, that's $100,000 loan amount or shitty credit or something. Like, we'll take it, and we'll show you how we work and work hard on a...
Sometimes the issue is when you ask for the shitty ones, that's all they give you then. But sometimes people are nice and they give you good ones. Eventually it turns into good ones, yeah.
You do enough good jobs on clients that would have been a nightmare for them, or you know, maybe not even been a loan or a deal, then
So you've been doing this for almost 12 years now? 12 years? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the back end Nations Direct?
Oh, we should say you're with Nations Direct now. I don't think that was mentioned.
No, it was.
In the very beginning?
Yeah,
All right,
sorry.
sorry.
What's your outlook this year? We making money? Is it going to be brutal?
Just lie to Mike and tell him it's going to be a great year. He's on the edge.
Please don't lie to me. They've all been lying to me. They lied to me for years.
This is going to be the best year of your life.
Thanks, pal.
It's already the best year. He's been to Vietnam. He's going to Spain in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I do have to pick my car up soon. I can't be stranded without a car, unfortunately. It's just a side note.
Fair. I think we've obviously had some terrible years. That's not much of a hot take.
No.
But I do think that there's people that had good years, even in the worst of it. Very few will say 22 was a good year. Maybe 23 actually might have been worse. But there's newer LOs or even newer shops, that were growing in those phase, and they didn't feel it nearly as much as others did. Whereas now I think things have stabilized enough where anyone, like I say, anyone that wants to do well will, but anyone that's been working hard, consistently, has the opportunity, even in this market that's still not as good as we want, to do well. I mean, I think we're all a lot smaller, than this industry is. So whether it's, me building up at a new lender after being at Loan Depot for so long, or an LO with 5 years experience or 10 years experience, the only people that can't grow from here are the biggest companies out there, because they've already tapped out their market share, or whatever it might be. There's always, some days it feels like it, but there is always some new relationship to build, or borrower to win over.
Yeah.
That can make your, this year better than last year. I think last year ended up well. It did for me. I think a lot of my brokers were relatively happy.
Yeah.
Considering how things are going. I think this year will be on par or better than last year. I think it'll be up and down though. You know, we've had the year started horribly. I mean, the first half of of January was
Brutal. Yeah.
some of the worst, rates, and activity we've seen in all these terrible,
Yeah.
years. And then we've just seen this awesome rally since. I don't
True.
think this might turn the corner. This might not turn the corner for us and become 5% rates and more loans than we know what to do with. But I think this will at least lead to a couple really good months. And then if it bounces back up, we got to, retreat and be thankful we closed those loans. And then it's going to come back again, and you got to take advantage of it again the second time.
Yeah.
We got a preview of that last year. Rates were slowly improving throughout the summer and business was feeling good. And then we got that sharp rate improvement. It led to a couple really hectic weeks of a lot of locks coming in.
Yeah.
October fundings were amazing because of it, and November wasn't bad either. But anyone that didn't act quick enough or was just shy of being ready to pull the trigger on their refi or their purchase, they completely missed out, and now they got to do it again right now. So
Got a couple of those people, I think, kicking themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to miss the opportunity again.
and some wanted an extra eighth or an extra quarter, and they would now be 4 months into that new, 4 payments into that new rate if they had just accepted it. So it's hard to know. It's hard to time this market, but I think that's just the perfect example of, you got to, in this market, it's so unpredictable, you got to just take advantage of, the good days or the good weeks and good months. So, I'm gearing up for a really big March and April of fundings, and if it falls off, because rates shoot back up, then I'm going to focus on closing everything I had and then be ready for the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to end. It's like a good positive, all right.
Half positive, yeah. More realistic and positive.
Yeah.
I like it. It's not like we're going to crush it this year, blah, blah, blah. I think it was a very good answer to my question.
All right.
I think it's going to be a good year.
It's going to be a good year.
It's going to be a good year. I'll say it.
We've lost tons of people that could pick off business over the last 2.
Yeah. I still feel like all the people we compete with are in, though.
Well, we compete with a lot of bigger people who are
Yeah,
good at their job.
yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of the realtors that we work with are only referring business to good people, and good people are going to
Stay in.
stay in.
Yeah, for sure.
And the people that, the big banks and the whatever credit union and stuff that we quote unquote competed with, but always win.
Yeah.
Right.
Not really competition
I'm
anyway.
surprised. I've seen people that I thought were really good at this job leave in the last 2 years too. So
Yeah.
All right.
it's hard to know what people are thinking, but I think we've finished the stage of people exiting unless rates shoot up, and then they'll be discouraged and leave. Now we're in the mergers and acquisitions have all fired back up.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. All right.
We're staying indie, baby.
Shakespeare.
Marathon
Let's do it.
Mortgage,
there we go.
local to the core.
Nations Direct.
You guys thought about buying Redfin though, right?
Yes, we were going to. We were the second highest offer.
Zillow beat us out.
Zillow beat us out.
Got us again.
Rocket.
We had a Rocket. Yeah, Rocket.
That was a rocket.
Yeah. They beat us out by we offered 1.74, and they beat us by 100 million. So
Tom just couldn't fund that last.
yeah, last 100 mil. So all right. Well, CJ, thank you
Yeah.
for coming on. You anything else? You
No,
wanna
thanks
say?
for the beer. And yeah, I think that's it.
If you're a broker, check out CJ.
Call me.
Yay!
I get to drink the last 3, right?
Yeah.
Wait, not this one. No, hold on. Hold on. Sorry. No, that wasn't for. That's for CJ.
All right.
Thank you, CJ.
That's good.
Hey.
All right. Happy Friday. Cheers.